Let's see now the respiratory system. And we will start with some terms. Breathing or ventilation is moving air in and out of lungs. External respiration is the gas exchange between the air, the outside air, the atmosphere, and blood in the lungs. Internal respiration is the gas exchange between the blood and tissues and cells. And also we have the cellular respiration, which is the oxygen used to produce ATP with carbon dioxide as waste. Respiratory system also functions in the production of sounds, which is important for communication. However, what we are going to study in this chapter will focus on the respiration process and function of the respiratory system. Let's see the parts of the respiratory system. It consists of upper respiratory tract, which is nose, nasal passages, sinuses, and the pharynx. And we have the lower respiratory tract, larynx, trachea, bronchi and bronchioles, lungs, and the alveoli. We'll very quickly go through the upper part. This is the upper part, and this is the lower respiratory. This is the upper respiratory. We'll go very quickly through the upper respiratory system, which has several functions: passageway for respiration, receptors for smell, filtration of foreign materials and so on, moisture and warm the incoming air, and also have the chambers for voice. All of these are located within the upper portion or the upper respiratory tract. For the lower respiratory tract, the first part is the larynx, and the larynx is important because it has the epiglottis, and the epiglottis is a flexible flap of cartilage that routes air and food, each to its destination. The epiglottis separates the trachea and the esophagus. The trachea part of the respiratory system. The esophagus behind the trachea is part of the gastrointestinal, part of the digestive system, gastrointestinal tract. So the epiglottis, when there is food, it will cover the trachea, so the food will not slip into the trachea. And by this, it will direct the food toward the esophagus. Also, within the larynx, we have the vocal cords, which are assisting in sound production, and they will maintain the opening of the airway. All of these are part of the larynx. For the trachea, this is another organ of the lower respiratory system, and it serves as a wind pipe. It serves as a wind pipe that transports air to and from the lungs. This is like how it will appear: trachea. Okay, and these are the lungs. Very simple drawing. So the trachea is this part, is transporting air to and from the lungs. The trachea or the windpipe is kept open by the C-shaped cartilages, the cartilage rings. And these cartilages are lined with epithelial tissue that is covered with a mucus. So this tissue is covered with a mucus, and it will help in filtering and trapping foreign objects and foreign particles and preventing them from getting inside the lungs. Also, the trachea will help in cough reflexes. When the trachea is contracted or constricted, it will push air outside, and that is the cough. The other part of the lower respiratory system is the bronchi and the bronchioles. Let's move to the image. This is, as we said, the trachea, and here the bronchus. The bronchus would split into left and right, portions. The trachea would split into left and right bronchus. Each one would enter the left or right lungs, and these bronchus, they will contain ciliated cells with cilia. We'll see a picture of them. These will help in pushing out the materials, pushing out foreign objects, and also dissolving the oxygen and CO2. They will contain also smooth muscles. They will contain cartilages, and they will keep branching. As you can see, they will keep branching into smaller portions, which we are calling them bronchioles. Bronchioles, they have the same function as the bronchus. Both are transporting air, cleaning and warming, humidifying air. Both of them, they have these ciliated cells. So this is the cilia. This is in a healthy airway. This is the smoker's airway. As you can see, the cilia has been destroyed by the smoke. So these cilia are going to help in pushing out the foreign objects, dust particles, viruses, bacteria, and so on, and preventing them from penetrating into the tissue. Okay, now let's talk about the lungs. And for the lungs, as we know, we have left and right lungs, and the lungs are located within the thoracic cavity. If you remember the thoracic cavity, each lung is enclosed with within a serous membrane, a two-layer of pleura. As you can see, this is the visceral pleura, and the outer side would be the parietal pleura. So there will be this is serous membrane to reduce friction around to reduce friction between the lungs and the thoracic cage, between the ribs and the muscles of the thoracic cage, and the area between them is called pleural cavity, which is filled with the fluid, and again to reduce friction. We have 3 loops in the right lungs, and we have two loops of the left lung. Part of the left lung is taking toward the heart because the heart is leaning toward the left. So there is less amount of lung tissue in the left lung, and the lungs can actually work independently of each other. So even if you remove part of one lung or completely removed one lung, the other lung is still functional. Now, for the alveoli, actually, if we can move to the image. Now, let's go back to here. These branches of the bronchioli, they will end up in clusters. Sorry, these branches of bronchioles, these are going to end up in clusters called alveolar sacs. Alveolar sacs. These alveolar sacs are made of small chambers. Small chambers. Each one of these chambers is called alveoli. So each one of these chambers is called alveoli. And the alveolar sac is basically a cluster of these alveoli set together, where the bronchioli is going to end within it. So these alveoli is the site for the gas exchange. These are the site for the gas exchange. And the gas exchange is happening between the air of this alveolus. Alveolus is one alveoli. Okay, this is the gas exchange again is happening between the air in the alveolus and the blood within the blood capillary surrounding the alveoli. I need you to notice here, these blood vessels, these blood capillaries are surrounding the walls of the alveoli from outside. So here they are. And the blood is running within the capillary. So the gas exchange is happening between the blood capillary and the air within the alveolus. This air is coming through the bronchioli. Okay, the air is coming through bronchioli, and this is the site of gas exchange. Basically, the blood cannot go to here, and the air cannot directly go to here. However, oxygen and CO2 are diffusing based on their concentrations. Now, the alveoli is made out of epithelial cells, squamous epithelial cells, very flat cells, that will help in making the gas exchange and making it a smooth process. Now, for the lungs, they would receive deoxygenated blood from the right ventricle. So this is the deoxygenated blood coming through the pulmonary arteries, if you remember, and this is coming from the right ventricle of the heart. And when it is around the alveoli, these capillaries will allow the blood to come very close to the alveolar wall. And as we said, the oxygen will diffuse in, the CO2 will diffuse out. Then, by this process, the oxygenated blood now, the blood with rich oxygen within it, will be collected through the pulmonary venule and be sent back to the heart through the pulmonary vein. So the blood would come to the lung through the pulmonary artery or arteries. These arteries will keep branching around the alveoli to allow the gas exchange. Then the blood would be recollected into the pulmonary vein and sent back to the to the heart. And from there it will be redistributed throughout the body. Now, the process of breathing involves a pressure gradient. We have inspiration and expiration, which is the movement of air in and out. When we have relaxed state, the diaphragm and intercostal muscles will relax, and we are inhaling, they will contract. We will see the image. So in the relaxed state, the diaphragm and the intercostal muscles are relaxing. But then we will have the inspiration. What will happen that the diaphragm will contract, it will pull itself toward the bottom, and the intercostal muscles also will contract. That will lead to elevating the chest wall and expanding volume of the chest. As you can see, the thoracic cage is enlarged. This will lead to low air pressure inside the lungs, so the air would flow in. So we increase the space, we increase the volume of the lung, that dropped the air pressure inside, and that led to the air to flow in. When we have expiration, the diaphragm would reestablish or would reestablish this dome shape. The intercostal muscles would relax. That would shrink or reduce the size of the thoracic cage. This would increase the pressure inside the lungs, and the air would flow out. So basically we have like a cycle of increasing pressure and relaxation, contraction and relaxation of the diaphragm and the intercostal muscles. When the intercostal muscles and the diaphragm are contracting, we are lowering the pressure inside the lungs, and the air is flowing in. When they are relaxed, we are reducing the size of the thoracic cage, we are reducing the size of the lungs, and therefore we are increasing the pressure inside the air pressure inside the lungs, and the air would flow out. I will stop here. Please post your comments, thoughts, and ideas or questions in the forum. When we come back, we will talk about the lung volumes and the vital capacities.